What is happening, YouTube? Hope you guys are doing well, and I really have to speak about this, so it's going to be a bit of a short video, no real fancy things, but just to get into it. So I was at gym today, and what I saw on the Sky News was just so revealing and so revelating on what is actually happening in Ukraine and Russia, that whole unneeded, unnecessary conflict. No matter what you think, or no matter what Putin thinks and believes, I think there was maybe a better way of going about things, and unfortunately it has now erupted into such a massive war that is obviously sparking fears that Russia could go further than Ukraine and try and create like the Soviet Union again, and try and, you know, bring back that Cold War kind of era. I will touch on a bit of what's actually happening besides that, but I think what stuck with me while gymming and reading this, and it was so true, and it's why I need to speak about it, because my head was just going insane about it. Zelensky, Ukraine's president, who by all means is a real life hero, and the man is standing by his country, and that is what, you know, leaders are supposed to do, and he's doing it. But what he's essentially said, he's come out and basically said the NATO is honestly rubbish, useless, and shit. And I feel the absolute same way. I feel that same way about the West and how they handle things. But to kind of exactly say what he was saying, and that is that NATO aren't doing enough, and because they aren't introducing a no-fly zone, they will be responsible for many deaths. And I absolutely agree with them. I think what the West are doing is not enough. I think when you introduce sanctions, you just got to think, well, what are you actually trying to do? Because even the people within Parliament and all around government in the UK believe that, yeah, these sanctions might hurt you in the beginning, but it's not actually going to do anything. We only might see things come in the long run. And also these sanctions hurt our own people and everything. And if we have to take it back a whole couple of years back into World War II, you just got to think, well, how are we making the same mistakes? And that is, people put on sanctions. All these governments put all these sanctions together and everything to try and stop Hitler and Germany and the advancement. But before they knew it, and before they really intervened and acted, well, Germany had majority of Europe, and we all know how that turned out in the end, and it ended up in a bloody conflict. And it could have literally been halted and stopped. And it's a clear indication that America, UK, and everything don't actually really care about these smaller countries. If it doesn't affect them directly, it's not going to matter. And that's what's happening here. You got the UN, you got the EU, and you got NATO. NATO is set up to protect everything, and NATO's own rule of not moving into the east, they started breaking and moving, and I don't understand, but I appreciate them doing that, because there are countries that need the help and everything. But this thing to introduce a no-fly zone because you're afraid of Putin and afraid of this nuclear war is just a clear indication that you should have put a stop to this before it even started. The Biden administration in America completely failed the world, and they're continuously failing the world, and so is the rest of these people that are putting sanctions. I understand the need for sanctions. I do. I'm no bloody professing, you know, politics or even part of government, but you really got to look at it and look how media and everything is filming this, and understand that this is pathetic. You have the opportunity to put a stop to Putin, and you are doing nothing. Yes, sanctions are great. Yes, military arms, and, you know, ensuring that there are more forces on the borders and everything to show it doesn't maybe go further than that is good. To, you know, provide ammunition and weapons and stuff is great, but it's not really helping. And I agree with Zelensky that NATO and the EU have to look at this, and if more people die, it's on them. Here's the reality. UK, America, all these European countries that aren't actually doing that much. You can say pretty words and you can try and paint a pretty picture, but your actions speak louder, and they're nothing. They're doing nothing. And you will be the reason why more people die. And if, God forbid, Ukraine falls, we have no one to blame. You do not blame Russia. You can blame Russia for starting this, but you can hold just as much to the West accountable for everything that's happening. And I want to now move on to just touch on to media. media is not really showing the full scale, and you don't actually know anymore what's true, and is it really true, the numbers or that, and you don't know what to believe anymore and everything. Don't get me wrong, no matter what you want to believe in, I think what is happening, what Russia is doing is wrong, and I'm on the side of the Ukrainians. I think there was a better way of doing things, but media is not even covering things now that are really serious and that's happening, like the Palestinians and what is going on there. And I want to touch on that without kind of sparking a heated debate. Or actually, I don't mind a heated debate, but I don't want to come across as the guy that's hating and doesn't actually care, because I do. But I do understand a little bit why there is this more coverage of Russia and Ukraine. And again, I'm going to say this as best as I can, and I'm not trying to downplay what's happening in Palestine, but I'm going to now put it into a little bit of perspective. Russia is a world power. They hold so much oil. They have a massive army. They are beyond a world power. That so much so, these sanctions actually don't do much to them, and that's a fact. If Russia continues their siege, they do this thing of saying the possibility of World War III actually happening, and that is a fact. I'm not trying to downplay what's happening with the Palestinians, but here's a fact. That's internalized, and that doesn't actually cause an outspark for World War III. Just take it back a year, America and with Trump and trying to go back and forth to Iran, that there sparked World War III. But for the first time ever, we are in a stage where Putin is throwing around nuclear, all this, what people say is just all talk, but the fact that he's throwing that is a real worry. Now, again, not downplaying Palestine, but when you have a world power fighting in a real ass war, and with the possibility of going further in Ukraine, it does take prevalence. It does, we are getting more imagery, more footage, more, showcase of what's really happening than we've ever shown in any other war, because World War III is not just any other war. World War III will undoubtedly have at least, some sort of nuclear impact. Again, not downplaying Palestinians, but you got to understand that it's wrong that they're not showing what's happening in Palestine. But there is a slight reason to that, because if World War III breaks out, right, and if finally America, UK, rest of Europe, and the world takes the finger out their arse and really fights back, the war is spread, and from internalized conflicts now become externalized, because no more are you fighting each other. You are now fighting to stop other countries from invading you. The thing that baffles me is that the UN calls it a win because the Chinese did not side with them and they just abstained from the vote. And how do you call that a win? China plays this into their hand. China wants Taiwan, and they'll take it by force. America's fleet has gone into that channel between China and Taiwan, and before they did that, China backed off and stopped the no-fly zone, and they didn't do any more no-flybys and all that. They stopped the flybys, but now they start up again, and even with the American fleet there, they're still busy flying in a no-fly zone. And that just shows you they are not scared, because they do not care. They weren't afraid to ensure that Hawaii is never in America ever again, because China is a massive world power again. And with all this, sanctions, this, that, all this, and yeah, we're doing the most by talking, sets a precedent that literally Russia's watching like, well, if that's what you're doing and I'm attacking Ukraine, I'm pretty sure I can go further. You also set a precedent for China to be like, well, that's what they did when Russia attacked Ukraine, and weren't well, we're going to do that with Taiwan. Taiwan, we believe, is part of us, and that's what's going to happen. It's starting to set a precedent of what can really happen. Again, I'm not a professor in politics. I'm not part of it, but it is honestly the most pathetic thing to watch and see, that they think that all this talking and sanctions is great. I honestly believe NATO need to have to literally introduce a no-fly zone and try and stop Russia from going through other borders into Ukraine. It has to be done. But it won't be, because whether they like to admit it or not, UK, the rest of Europe, and the United States all together are so afraid of Russia and Putin, because how Putin is so willingly literally just got his finger on the trigger, on the button, whatever they're using, to set off a nuclear missile. And they are not willing to admit that they're afraid of that. They've said, we don't want to have a conflict. It's not. But the craziest thing is like, well, we'll help you by giving you stuff, but we are not going to, because it's not a NATO thing, we're not going to get involved. It is the most pathetic thing, and it's rewriting history. We've got these old bums involved in politics, not willing to stop something before it starts. Prevention is 10 times better than the cure most of the time. That is the point of prevention. Stop it before it happens. And there was the opportunity to do so. So I'm all with Zelensky in saying that NATO and the rest of the West are absolutely pathetic, and that anything that happens from now on is on the head. Because whether you like it or not, Russia have a powerful enough force to literally push them back, and that's what's starting to happen. Eventually, you get overwhelmed. So what happens? What did the West do when Ukraine... Not when. I don't want to say when, because if Ukraine fall is a better way I want to say it, because that's true. If Ukraine fall, what does the West do? Does the West then just accept and just say, okay, cool, sanctions, Russia, you can't deal with the world anymore? Russia will carry on. And here's another thing. And when they were doing that vote in the UN, as pathetic as the UN is, UN just send observers to observe and they never do anything. They do that throughout Africa. Absolutely stupid, pathetic, and UN, you should better know that. I want to kind of wrap this up, because from a little short video, it's gone on a bit long enough. I wouldn't be DJ Talks if I wasn't having my piece and my say. But I want to speak just about the UN. They're having all these votes and everything. What are the votes honestly doing? Seriously, what are they doing? They're doing nothing. They're wasting time. There is no action. And they're thinking there's wins because there's so many countries that have voted against Russia and voted for Ukraine. And I'm thinking, there was also so many that have abstained, being South Africa as we are, which is honestly pathetic. I think we should have voted obviously for, but whatever reason, we should be. Also, they should see that there is no win there. No win because China abstained. China abstained because it works for them. It benefits them. They don't side with someone, so no eyes are on them. They can carry on their business and carry on trying to do what they want to do, and that's claim Taiwan. Then you got the likes of North Korea that actually voted with Russia. Now, if that isn't a bit of an alarm, knowing that if this goes to World War III, and the possibility is there, you have now North Korea, who is a massive indication that they're not afraid as well to play around with nuclear warfare. And what are we doing about that? Saying, well, damn, well, we gotta put a lid on this. There has to be a lid on what is happening, and nothing's happening. The UN is useless, the EU is useless, NATO absolutely useless. When this all ends, and if it doesn't go to a further on World War III, they need to honestly scrap UN, scrap the EU, scrap NATO, because they do nothing but talk. Nothing but talk. It's pathetic. It makes me upset. And I want to make my stance here, no matter what the reasonings are, there was a better way for this to be done. But I do side with Ukraine. And I hope that there is a resolution to this. And I honestly commend, because it's all I can do from here. There's nothing else I can do. That Zelensky is proof that what a leader is. A leader fights with his people, fights for his people. And all my prayers, as again, there's nothing else I can do. I'm not in government. We're not a world power in South Africa. There's nothing that our country can do. So all prayers are there, and hoping that NATO finally, NATO, EU, UN, the whole of the West, USA, UK, take their finger out their arse and do something. It went on longer than I wanted to this video, but you've heard my say. It's just, I'm putting it out there. Like I said, nothing fancy with the video. It's just how it is. Let me know your thoughts. What's your stance? What's your comments? I want to hear it. Do you believe NATO is doing enough? Do you believe the EU, the UN, USA, the whole of them are doing enough? And do you have maybe a thought on what actually could possibly happen and what will maybe be the best prevention to be the cure? But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. Like I said, comment if you need a comment, like if you like, if you didn't, you know what to do. Otherwise, check in the next.